Hey guys, want to do a quick rundown of my board. We'll plug it in and let you hear it in a minute. Yeah, I want to kind of just walk through what's going on with it. So this is a Temple Duo 17 pedal board, and I've got a patch bay on the side here, which is actually pretty important. There's also the power input there with the switch. So we're using all four of these jacks here. So the top one is my input, and then I have three different types of outputs, which I'll go over when we get to the end of the signal chain. So right now I'm using the second one, which gives me an amp sim. So we'll go over that. So from the patch bay, we go into the Bloom first. The Bloom is a compressor, equalizer, and boost. So just incredibly practical. The compressor on is fantastic. I use the EQ kind of for like a mid boost thing, and I use the Bloom, the actual clean boost, quite often to just push my drives and my amp a little harder. From there we go into the drive pedal. So this is my whole dirt section. It's a custom build from Make Sounds Loudly. When I got it from him, it was just blue. I added the decals just so I can remember what they are, make it look a little cleaner. So it's 3 drive circuits in one. It's a overdrive, a hotcake, a rat, and a green Russian Pi. So that they're just kind of in columns. So each circuit has a volume, a gain, and a tone. Even the rat just has a tone. It's basically the filter knob, but flipped back to, I guess, normal, so you get more treble when you turn it up. Yeah, and they're faithful recreations to my ear. They're fantastic. This middle switch is a little, it's back and it's a little higher, so it's easy to just turn on the rat when I need to. I'm using the hotcake mostly as a medium to light overdrive, and then the rat's on a pretty low setting most of the time, and then I use the big mouth when I want to do, weird Jack White stuff. From there we go into the Hedra. This is the Meris pedal. It's a multi-voice pitch shifter with delay, so you can make weird arpeggio things happen. It can also follow all sorts of modes and keys for its harmonizing. Fantastic pedal. So we go into that next, just purely for tracking reasons. Then we go into the flanger. This is a BF2. It's been modded by Loophole Pedals. He's got 4 switch mods and then a blend knob at the top. And that blend is fantastic. These 2 switches increase the range of the depth and rate knobs, so those are excellent. These 2, one of them's harmonic and one of them's analog. I don't really notice that they change the sound that much. When I was ordering the mods, I just wanted to get this thing beefed up as much as possible, so I went for all of them, but it turns out that probably only need those other 3. From there we go into the DD7. This is just a standard DD7. I just have it modded to have the tap tempo switch on board, and I just threw a red knob on there. From the DD7 we go into the Tensor, which is fantastic, and I'm using the MIDI Baby and this extra 2-button foot switch, which is plugged into the MIDI Baby. It just expands what it can do. So the MIDI Baby is controlling presets on the Hedra and on the Tensor. I probably have about 4 presets I'm using on the Hedra. I have 8 presets that I'm calling up on the Tensor. There's just so much stuff that this pedal can do in so many different ways. It's fantastic. So I'll show you some of those sounds in a bit. So the Tensor, if you're not familiar with it, I think most people are by now. It can do time stretching, time compressing, micro looping, pitch shifting, and glitchy randomization as well. And it's incredibly useful if you use just one of those at a time, and it gets really wacky if you start using, kind of mixing those. So I like to just start with Unity and then mess with one feature and then maybe add a little bit in. But I'm using this not as like a crazy like Nick Reinhardt glitch mania thing, but more as like a subtle ambient music making tool, as well as just the practical stuff like looping and pitch shifting. So it's really great, especially if you can call up presets. The MIDI Baby makes this thing really easy. So the MIDI Baby, really simply, I'm using the 3 switches on the MIDI Baby to do stuff with the Tensor. So I have 3 presets on this switch. I have 5 presets on this switch, and those are just different kind of types. So I can just scroll through them real quick, and it helps my brain to just have them just you just scroll through the 3 when you want the practical stuff, and when you want the weird stuff, you scroll through these 5 over here, and I'll talk about what they are. One of the presets here is called stutter, and I use this switch to make the tensor stutter. If you know the tensor, you know that this hold switch can do that pretty well with the record mode and this on momentary, but there's a problem with it, and I'll talk about it when I show you what my stutter does. It's basically the same thing, it's just a little more predictable, a little nicer to work with. And then finally in the chain we have the Keeley Hydra. This is reverb and tremolo in one. There's a spring, a plate, and a room reverb. There's a sine wave tremolo, a harmonic tremolo, and a vibrato. And then there's presets, which is fantastic. So there's 3 presets, and then there's a 4th with what you have basically on the knobs. You can get to that one quickly as well. There's tap tempo and the tremolo. It's a fantastic pedal, absolutely love it. Now where this gets interesting on the patch bay and the outputs is what happens underneath the board. So from the Hydra, we come down here. I'm gonna flip this all the way over. From the Hydra, we come into this Saturn Works splitter. So this is a stereo splitter in that it's got 2 inputs, and then each of those inputs makes 2 outputs. And so the signal chain gets a little funky here, but I'm leveraging this so that I could basically have lots of creative uses for my outputs. So I'll talk a little bit about how I like to use my board. I have a Vox AC15, so many times I'm just plugging into the effects and then I want to go straight into my amp. I also have here in my little home studio, I'm going to make a video for this later, I've got a PA, a mixer, and some powered speakers, and so they're very often when I'm jamming at home, I want to go through an amp simulator into that mixer. I also, from time to time, will take my board into my bedroom, and then I want to play quietly at nighttime with headphones. And so that's what my 3 outputs are. This second one here is if I'm going into my amp. This third one here is if I'm going through my amp sim, but normal instrument level. And then the 4th one is through the amp sim, but with headphone level signal. And so I can plug a 1/4-inch headphone jack in there. And so what I've got here is this is a Moore Day Tripper preamp. It's a mini preamp made to sound like a Vox. And so this is the amp sim, and then all I'm actually using the mini studio for, which also does amp sim and stuff, all I'm using this for is a headphone amplifier. Just it takes the signal from the preamp and it converts it into a headphone level signal. I don't even have the circuit engaged. It's just input and then headphone output. I would have liked to use this for everything, but I needed it under the board, so I wasn't going to be able to switch. And it turns out you can't send this instrument level out and headphone out at the same time. One will always win. So I decided just to use this to get that headphone level conversion, and I already had this preamp and liked the way it sounded, so that's my amp sim. So this is kind of like what y'all get with the Iridium. It's just a little bit more complicated, and with the niceness that it's all just set underneath the board, and it all just depends on how I hook up to my patch bay. So practically, to accomplish this, that's what the splitter is for. So we send the regular signal from the end of the chain, the Hydra, here, and then it gets split into 2 signals. One signal goes to the output if I just want to go straight from the Hydra out to my amp. That's what goes here. The other one goes into the amp sim. From there, the amp sim output needs to be split because I either want to send just my amp sim to the PA, this one, or I want to go through the mini studio and get that headphone level amplification. So we actually go back from here back to the second channel of the splitter, and then we get 2 outputs, and one of them goes here to this third output, which is just instrument level from the amp sim to the PA, and then the other one goes to the mini studio. Then we get this headphone jack. We come over here with this TRS cable to have the headphone jack work correctly with both sides of your headphones, and then yeah, that's the net result. So this is a little more convoluted than what some of y'all do with something like an Iridium, but I kind of had some of these things. I had been playing with the Moore preamp already, and I bought the mini studio thinking it could replace it and give me headphones, but it didn't quite have the interface that I wanted, so I ended up using both and bought the splitter and made it work. So now I kind of like it because I have this quote-unquote smart patch bay. So I always go into input, and then based on the output I choose, or based on what I'm doing, with the board, what I'm plugging into, I can choose my output, and it's always ready to go. As soon as I flip the switch on the board, the more preamp turns itself on. The Nux Studio stays off, which is fine because I don't want the amp simulation from that. I just want the headphone conversion. So that's the board. I'm gonna plug in now and show you guys what it sounds like. Real quick, I wanted to show off my guitars and talk about them a little bit. So this is a Gretsch Electromatic center block. I just put a metal pickguard on it. It's the 3 pickup version. It's got a toggle for that middle pickup on off, and then it's got a 3-way toggle for neck and bridge, master volume, yada yada. Fantastic. I mean, it sounds like a Gretsch. It sounds exactly like you'd expect it to sound like. It's beautiful. It plays super well for not a very expensive guitar. Next is a custom guitar I had built by a guy named Dan Wolf. DWG is his company. He's based out of Colorado, and he's a fantastic builder. He does lots of custom builds. So this is a Jazzmaster shaped body. This is all built completely from scratch. He does the bodies, the necks, wiring, everything. So this is a Jazzmaster shaped body with a custom pickguard design, just basically standard like Les Paul style wiring. We've got 2 humbuckers with 2 volumes, 2 tones, no dotted frets. It's relict, and it's got this kind of 2-tone thing going on with its paint job. It's just a wood finish on the back. Yeah, love that guitar. Sounds amazing. 25.5-inch scale length, so it still sounds Fendery, but with humbuckers. We'll go over here and look at the rest of the guitars. Oh, I meant to talk about the bass. So sorry, the bass is new to me. This is just a full-scale bass, but it's aesthetically a ripoff of a Dan Armstrong Ampeg. If you follow Death from Above 1979, you'll be familiar with what this bass is trying to do. It's just a cheap ripoff of that, but it actually sounds pretty good. It's got a really beefy neck. It's actually very heavy because of that, and it's got the acrylic body. Yeah, sounds great to my ears for $400, not bad. Okay, over here we've got the rest of the guitars. My acoustic is a Gibson J15, which is it's a slope shoulder, kind of J45 thing, but it's all walnut. And then the other 2 guitars. So this is another Dan Wolf kind of creation. We actually bought I don't know if you can tell, but it's a Strat body, but it's kind of modified. The upper horn's a little bigger, the lower horn's a little bigger, the bottom of the body is tapered on one side a little bit. Someone had created a kind of cheap parts caster on Reverb with this body and a different neck, and it was stained walnut originally. So I actually bought this and sent it straight to Dan without even playing it, because I just kind of liked the modified Strat body shape, and then I wanted to have him kind of completely rebuild it. So in the course of that, he ended up building a brand new neck for it, custom headstock, and we decided to go with 2 single coil wiring. So these are Lindy Fralin Mustang pickups. We just have 1 volume, 1 tone, a 3-way switch. Pretty basic, but does that single coil thing really well. I've played Strats all my life, and I am not a Strat player in that I don't really include the middle pickup. I'm just all neck or all bridge, and I like Tellys too, so that bridge neck thing is pretty good on this guitar. So 25.5-inch scale length, kind of Strat body. Again, we did a custom pickguard thing here. I like these parallel cutouts, and kind of ties it in with the other guitar as well. And then lastly, I've got this Guild T50 Slim. It's got a busted string right now. I removed the pickguard from it, but it's just a fantastic hollow body. Probably the best playing guitar I own, especially for the money. $900 for this thing. It's completely hollow, but it's also completely thin. It's a thin line. So just 1 dog-eared P90. It's got a lot of output to it, and it can really growl, but it cleans up so nicely too. It's fantastic to play. So those are the guitars. Like I said, let's listen to some sound right now. All right, gonna run through some sounds real quick. Here's the clean tone. This is through the amp sim. Here's with compressor. Here's a little bit of boosted mid and treble. boost on tap. That's barely getting into it at all, and it's already a little too much. Real quick, the drive circuits. So again, this is clean. Here's a hot cake. Rat. And Digma. From there we go into the Hedra. There's some weird stuff going on with the Hedra. First we'll call up. This is upper thirds in the key of G is what the preset is. I can just bend over and change the key. So something like this. And then we can go with some upper octave and lower octave, add some fuzz, and it sounds like so those are just the basic kind of harmony pitch shifter things. And then on this side, on my A switch, if I press that, I call up two of the kind of arpeggiating delay things. This is just a different rhythm. I think the intervals are reorganized here. Sorry. This also has a really nice swell effect if I do the hold switch. So that's the Hedra. Let's see, we go to the flanger. Right now it's kind of set more for like a chorus. Can set it more for kind of Leslie type tones. If we go back to sorry, I don't know the whole song. I had learned it at one point. Anyways, that's a couple things I like to do with the flanger. I'm just going to keep that one quick. From the flanger, we go into the tensor, and this is when the fun begins. Before we get to the tensor, I'm going to jump to the Hydra because I want to use some reverb with the tensor. So here's the trem on the Hydra. And if you want to tap in a different tempo, you press and hold. Here's the plate reverb. I like to just keep that on at all times, to be honest. On the trem side, we can go dial in some vibrato. Yeah, that's basically it. So I kind of do the always on reverb thing, and then I'll dial in some vibrato or tremolo when I need it. Okay, let's talk tensor. So first thing I'm going to do is go through the presets. So first one is called stutter. This is basically set up to be momentary hold, record mode, unity in terms of time and pitch shifting and stuff. And so the idea here is that if you press and hold on the hold switch while you're playing, oh, it doesn't look like I had momentary programmed in for this one. There's a reason why I didn't bother with that, but here's what it would be like. We would go, and it does that stuttery thing, right? It's going. Now, the green and red LEDs are flashing based on the loop length, and the loop length is based on how long I pressed the switch down. So if you want to get consistent choppiness, let me turn the blend up here. If you want to get consistent choppiness, it's kind of tough. If you played with the DD6, you kind of know that to be the case. So one of the things I did is I programmed this middle switch on the MIDI baby so that it has a consistent loop length. So it simulates pressing down on the switch, and then it triggers 85 milliseconds later to press up on the switch. So it's always that 85 millisecond loop length, which is a nice short stuttery kind of thing. And then it's a little bit more predictable to work with. So I can, I like to kind of keep the blend down low, and I can actually use this more, I don't know, subtly, I guess, but. So it makes it a little bit more manageable, almost more like a judder would be with its kind of glitchiness. And yeah, so that's the stutter mode. The next one I call freeze. I use the regular hold switch on this, and this one is basically taking my signal and time stretching it, and it just sounds a little bit more ambient. So I kind of use this almost like a EHX freeze or super ego. It's alternating between forward loop and reverse loop. Yeah, so kind of a basic freeze pedal there with the green preset. The next one is just unity knobs, and then the hold switch is set up as a looper. So we can just do a phrase looper. There's only 9 seconds, a little bit more than 9 seconds with the latest firmware. So it's pretty short looping, but for just basic loops it works. You can do the normal jamming thing. So those three are there on the left switch, and again, stutter is just something that I can use with any preset, but mostly I use it with this red preset because it's really dialed in for that stutter thing. I've got 4 presets, soon to be 5 presets here on the right side. So the first one, the first 2 are pitch shifting presets. Let me turn the pedal off. We're going to go to the red one first. So this is just an octave up pitch shift, but with the bypass switch set to momentary mode, so I can do stuff like. That kind of thing. So it's momentary octave up. I can bend over and mess with the pitch knob and get momentary anything. This is latching, and it's a sub octave with a pretty even blend. So this one will be, sorry, here's just fuzz. Here's with sub octave. Just that big, deep sound. The next 2 are more for atmospheric stuff. So this one I call glitch mode. This is basically knobs at unity with the random knob turned up a little bit. And then I'm, just as I'm playing, especially with lots of reverb, it's just kind of doing this little bit of glitchiness underneath my playing. I have the blend pretty low. So you get some of that granular stuff going, but it's totally random. The pedal just decides what it wants to do. But with low in the mix, I kind of like the way it sounds. It just kind of breaks up the playing. Just slow picking like this. So that one's fun. And then the next one is the reverse delay. This is actually mentioned in the manual. You can set up a reverse loop direction, use next mode, and then you basically use the hold switch as your tap tempo because you're setting the loop length. So I can do something like. So it's just a reverse delay. And then the fifth one that I'm going to program into here that I haven't yet is something I've been messing with. I'm calling it, sorry, I've got to call up a regular preset here. I'll just kind of dial it in by hand for now. I'm calling it Judder because it is a lot like one of my favorite sounds on my NWFX Judder pedal. That pedal can do the kind of stutter thing, but it can also, you can pre-program that stutter on and off based on an LFO. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do our time compressing here. We're gonna go into next mode and use this hold kind of as a tap tempo for that LFO. So every time it switches over, it's going to play the loop, but it's gonna play it compressed. And so you get this kind of oscillating, I don't know, freak out happening. And then I'm gonna turn the blend down so it's just kind of underneath my playing. And we'll see how successful we are with this. Sometimes it's better to, right here I have it at twice speed. Sometimes I go down to like 1.5 speed, somewhere around there. And then I can actually tap tempo into what I'm playing. Yep. So that's it.